On hills, there'll be some patchy drizzle. It will be frost-free, temperatures of 6 to 8 Celsius first thing. So a gloomy start to Tuesday, especially for central and eastern parts of Scotland, with outbreaks of light rain here and there, particularly over the hills. Showery rain for the north and northwest of Scotland as well, but some brightness for the parts of western Scotland, particularly the southwest. Cumbria, West Wales doing well for some glimmers of sunshine first thing. The southwest of England still seeing some showers. Mostly these are light outbreaks of rain, and they're going to fade away by the time we get to the afternoon. So many places will be dry but cloudy, and that widespread cloud sheet continuing throughout much of Tuesday. It's going to make it feel cold, and the easterly wind, once it sets in, will make it feel cold. Feels like temperatures more like 2 or 3 Celsius in the east and southeast of England. Northern Scotland sees some outbreaks of rain later on, and they tend to drift into central areas by Christmas Eve before fizzling away. But you'll notice Christmas Eve, a bit less cloud around. Not entirely cloud-free, but certainly a brighter day is expected. And likewise, on to Christmas Day, brighter skies, still some patchy cloud around, dry for most, even if it will be windy.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
A very Merry Christmas to you all from the Aurora Collection Resort in Lapland.
We're on an amazing Arctic adventure to celebrate our greatest cash giveaway, a simply stunning £85,000.
And this Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win it all. So don't miss out this Christmas.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubrey, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight.
We have to keep standing up for farming until there are changes.
We, the people, are the power, aren't we? You know, if we don't stand up now, we're not going to have an open house chance.
Labour's war on the countryside continues just in time for Christmas. Not content with taxing farmers into oblivion, they now want to ban trail hunting. None of this is by accident. The socialists want you to sacrifice meat, dairy and rural industries on the altar of net zero, and it needs to be stopped. But the countryside is destitute. Also tonight.
This idea that migration causes, huge risks for the country can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of ethnic minority UK citizens very, very difficult.
The news spokesman for the Blob, the head of the Equalities Watchdog, has told us to stop expressing concerns over immigration, as what she calls the demonisation of migrants may cause a risk for the nation, with crimes against British citizens by asylum seekers supposedly becoming an increasingly common occurrence. The real risk comes from the Blob's hatred of free speech, making people afraid to discuss important issues. Also tonight, Jeffrey Epstein scandal revelations continue to escalate, with countless public figures being linked to the notorious sex offender. But why was this egregious elite culture able to flourish? Has the moral degradation of society since the 1960s led to such reprehensible behaviours? Plus, yet more signs of Britain in decline. Christmas is being tainted by the shoplifting epidemic. New figures show more than 800 incidents go unsolved every day. Meanwhile, a museum in Brighton has promised to decolonise Santa Claus, saying he's too white and too male. Is peace and goodwill to all men now dead in the water? State of the Nation starts now. I'll also be joined by my most penetratingly percipient panel, the former Conservative MP and Minister, Sir John Redwood, and the former Labour MP, Stephen Pound. As always, let me know what you think. mailmog@gbnews.com. But now it's your favourite time of the day, the News Bulletin with Sam Francis.
Jacob, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 8 o'clock, well, the top story tonight, a man and 5 other men have been charged with a series of sexual offences against his ex-wife, spanning more than a decade. 49-year-old Philip Young faces 56 charges, including rape, drugging his former spouse and possession of indecent images. 5 additional men have also been charged in connection with offences against Joanne Young, who has chosen to waive her right to anonymity. All 6 are due to appear at Swindon Magistrates Court on Tuesday. 2 men have been jailed for raping a teenage girl in Rotherham more than 20 years ago. Kesser Ajib was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison, while Mohammed Mahmoud received 7 years for offences committed when the victim was aged between 14 and 16. The convictions are part of Operation Stovewood, the investigation into historic child sexual exploitation in Rotherham. The judge said that the men had abused the vulnerability of a young girl, describing the impact on her as tragic. Hunger-striking Palestine Action activists are threatening legal action against the government tonight, warning some prisoners could die, they say, without urgent intervention. Lawyers say they've sent a pre-action letter to the Justice Secretary David Lammy after 7 prisoners were taken to hospital since the strike began in early November. One activist has now refused food for more than 50 days, with lawyers saying their client's health is deteriorating rapidly. They're demanding an urgent meeting. The Ministry of Justice, though, says it strongly rejects the claims, insisting prison safety procedures are robust and being followed. 2 burglars have been jailed today after using the dating app Grindr to trick men into letting them into their homes. The pair posed as dates, then asked their victims to unlock their phones to play music before stealing the devices and making contactless payments. The judge said the men exploited their victims' perceived vulnerability and violated their trust by targeting them in their own homes. Ramat Khan Mohammadi was jailed for 5 years, with Mohammed Bilal Hotak sentenced to 3.5 years. The chair of Britain's Equalities Watchdog has warned against what she calls the demonisation of migrants, saying it would be a mistake for the UK to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. Dr Mary-Ann Stevenson, who leads the Equality and Human Rights Commission, said the convention is really important and that it underpins rights that everyone relies on. Her comments come as the Conservatives and Reform UK are both backing the withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights to, they say, curb immigration. Downing Street, though, says there's a balance to be struck, while Dr Stevenson has called for more honesty in how human rights are debated.
I think it's really important that we have honesty in the way that we talk about human rights, and that we also have a recognition that the demonisation of migrants, the creating this idea that migration causes, huge risks for the country, can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of ethnic minority UK citizens very, very difficult.
And the singer behind the festive classic Driving Home for Christmas, Chris Rea, has sadly died today at the age of 74. The Middlesbrough-born musician passed away peacefully in hospital following a short illness, surrounded by his family. Rea found fame, of course, in the late 70s and 80s with hits including Let's Dance and The Road to Hell, with 2 UK #1 albums. Tributes have been pouring in, with Middlesbrough Football Club among them, calling him a Teesside icon. Those are the headlines for now. I'll be back with you in an hour.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. The Labour government's war on the countryside continues, just in time for Christmas. Not content with imposing an unaffordable death tax on farmers, they now want to ban trail hunting in case people break the law. These attacks on our rural industry are no accident. Socialists in government want to destroy the rural economy to meet the requirements of net zero. Hence, you must sacrifice meat, dairy and the rural way of life to lower your emissions. Why do socialists want this? Because Labour governments are instinctively hostile to individual freedom. They are rooted in a collectivist mindset that values control over choice. Regulation isn't presented as problem-solving, rather it's used as a tool of control, and decisions are imposed from afar with the message to the people that the man in Whitehall really does know best. Policies hostile to rural traditions and businesses are increasing, while regulations make agricultural production ever more expensive. By driving up costs and making food more expensive, the government hopes to reduce meat and dairy consumption by as much as 25% to meet green targets. And if you don't believe me, have a look at the Climate Change Committee's last report. This is a deliberate attempt to destroy the countryside in pursuit of environmental goals, with a bonus of helping class warfare. Trail hunting is not the cruel practice the government portrays. It involves following a scent laid for hounds, not hunting real live animals. Since the 2004 Hunting Act, it has been illegal because trail hunting has been legal because it doesn't involve killing. But now Labour wants to ban it, citing it as a smokescreen for illegal activity. On this basis, almost everything could be banned. You close all the banks in case people money launder. You close the pubs in case they serve 18-year-olds, while all driving should stop, as people may occasionally speed. It is an absurd proposition used to cover up Labour's malicious spite. Meanwhile, farmers are frightened by looming inheritance tax changes, rising costs and regulatory pressures. Baroness Batter's review of farm profitability warns that many are questioning the viability of their farms. Profits are dwindling and the government continues piling pressure on those who feed the nation. This fixation with banning things is not limited to rural affairs. They want to ban social media for under 16s, following Australia's example, while simultaneously reducing press scrutiny of the government by cutting lobby briefings from 8 to 5 per week so that we won't know what they're up to. Could it be that younger generations are flocking to Reform and the Greens in record numbers because they don't like this attempt to cover things up? So what are we left with? A government that taxes farmers, bans traditions, regulates our diets by stealth, wants to control our children's access to the internet and is tightening control over the media. All in the name of socialist control, not problem solving. Labour's not just hostile to rural Britain, it's hostile to you. As always, let me know what you think, mailmog@gbnews.com. But I'm now joined by the Director of External Affairs at the Countryside Alliance, Mo Metcalfe-Fisher. Thank you very much for joining me. So can you tell me, behind that smoke screen that is appearing on our screens, whether trail hunting is in fact just a means of covering up illegal activity whilst pretending that it's obeying the law?
Trail hunting was brought in, as you know, Jacob, to protect the infrastructure of hunting. We all know that hunting contributes a huge sum of money annually to the rural economy. It's also part of the social fabric of rural Britain, and some of our most isolated parts of the countryside is an essential part of the way of life. And so trail hunting was brought in to essentially comply with a law that many in the countryside disagreed with, introduced by the last Labour government, who, let's not forget, Jacob, spent 700 plus hours of parliamentary time on this issue. And we now have a Labour government who, presented with a series of problems in the countryside, not least the cost of living crisis and all the difficulties our rural businesses are struggling with. Specifically, I've been speaking to them today, pub landlords and also village shops and farm shops. And they want to distract with the issue of trail hunting again. And I think that's so sad. Going into the last election, Jacob, there are a lot of conversations happening with Labour candidates and constituents, many of whom became Labour MPs, perhaps for the first time in history. And within weeks of getting into office, Labour HQ decided that no, actually, forget all that. Let's go to war with the farmers. Let's bring in the family farm tax. And it unfortunately, for the last few months, the last year at least, it's been really, really difficult for so many rural people. And this whole debacle over trail hunting is just, to me, Jacob, a distraction.
Yes, but they did put a ban on trail hunting in their manifesto, didn't they? So we can't say we didn't know that there was this possibility.
We did. In fact, Jacob, it was one of the only things they actually had in their manifesto about the countryside, quite disappointingly. But the Labour Party has been on a journey over a number of years. I know it feels like a lifetime ago now, but when Jeremy Corbyn was in power, they were threatening to ban pretty much everything. But there has always been this strange internal obsession with the issue of hunting. And despite best efforts, the president of the Countryside Alliance is a Labour peer, Anne Mallieu, to try and just get the party to focus on actual issues. Unfortunately, to some at Labour HQ in London, they're just not prepared to leave it.
All right. But are the opponents of trail hunting right that it's used as a smokescreen for carrying on ordinary hunting? Or are the hunts not only following the law in its letter, but it's in its spirit? How many hunts are catching foxes at the moment? Do you know?
So just to go back to the first part, no, the law is very clear. You cannot use dogs to chase wild animals. It's just that is the law. And there have been prosecutions under the Hunting Act. Just park what your own views on the Hunting Act could be. There has been prosecutions under the Hunting Act. So the Hunting Act itself actually does work. Now, admittedly, a handful of those, actually the vast bulk of those prosecutions haven't involved the registered hunts who will be appearing all over the TV screens today and tomorrow and in the newspapers. It involves poachers and gangs. But at the same time, the law is clear and there are prosecutions. And now suddenly the government are saying, oh, no, it doesn't work. We've got to waste more time talking about how we refine the law.
But that's not quite answering my question. Is it being used by hunts as a smokescreen? Are they laying a trail and then actually, tally-ho, going after a fox?
No, the law is very clear. That's not what they should be doing, and I don't know of that. And where there are prosecutions or where there is evidence of illegal activity, Jacob, that is a matter for the police in the same way that any other investigation they should be carrying out should be.
Thank you. I'm glad you told me that, because my family go out with the Mendip farmers quite regularly, and as far as I can tell, they never see a fox. So as far as I can tell, at least the Mendip farmers rigorously follows the law, which is why I look forward to welcoming them for their meet sometime in the new year. Thank you very much for joining me, because I'm now joined by, thank you, and you, my most penetratingly percipient panel, the former Conservative MP and Minister John Redwood and the former Labour MP Stephen Pound. Stephen, this is just class warfare, isn't it?
Absolute rubbish. No, look, you chaps know much more about the countryside than I do. But what I do, and it's something I don't know anything about it, I listen to the people who do. And I've listened to Minette Battus, who's actually produced this 57-point crisis point for farming. 57, doesn't mention inheritance tax once. It mentions things like...
She wasn't allowed to.
Of course she was.
No, she wasn't.
She was.
No, her terms of reference did not allow her to mention inheritance tax.
How many times have you actually seen anybody actually stick rigorously to that? She could have come around a dozen ways. What she does talk about is farmers wanting to build reservoirs on their lands. She talks about the iniquities of us leaving the European Union and unable to have temporary workers coming over here. But there's a whole range of things. This business about trail hunting, there is a wealth of evidence. There have been 47 individual cases where foxes have been pursued to their death.
Over 20 years?
Yeah. No. Since the act was passed.
That's right. That was about 20 years ago. Yes, it is now.
Is it that long ago?
Yes, I'm afraid
the
so.
Foster bill.
So that's, you're talking about 2 cases a year. It's not very much, is it?
But listen, Jacob, I don't know much about fox hunting, and I admit that here and now. However, if a pack of hounds are on the trail on the scent and a fox crosses that, do you honestly think they're all going to slam on the brakes and say, hold up, lads, we're not going any further? Of course they'll chase the fox. But the key thing for me about fox hunting is the fox in this country was extinct in 1872. It was brought back into this country purely for what I consider a barbarism, not a sport at all. I think it's horrendous. And as far as I'm concerned, all this joy, the stirrup cup and the tally-ho and the pink coats and everything, I'm sorry.
So you don't like people enjoying yourself?
I love people enjoying themselves.
Catholic.
That's what football's for.
Calvinist. All right. John, it is just not liking people having fun. And I really just like this argument that because some people break the law, an activity that potentially leads to breaking the law must be banned, because that is an excuse for stopping anything you feel like.
Yes, it's quite wrong, and the reputable hunts in this country do obey the law and should obey the law, and we just heard a spokesman point out that that is true. I mean, he was rightly saying the prosecutions are usually of criminals with criminal intent.
Criminal gangs who go hare coursing and things like that.
Not the people who run respectable hunts, and no respectable hunt would want to be associated with killing foxes now, because it would mean that they would be banned or they would find their reputations very badly damaged. But this huge attack on the countryside is so worrying. I mean, in the week when they say they're concerned about animal welfare, have they thought about the animal welfare of all the dogs and horses currently given a reasonable life because people want to use them in this way and therefore feed them and look after them and all the rest of it? They won't have a future. Now, does that worry the Labour government?
Absolutely, and the knock-on effects, because the hunts provide a very good disposal mechanism for fallen stock. They take the cattle that drop dead to feed the hounds. All of that goes, and you then have much more expense. Everything is about putting up the cost of rural living.
I don't disagree. Look, a lot of the foxhounds are bred, usually, to hunt. That's what they're bred for. And when they're past their usefulness, they get shot. It's not like the distressed greyhounds and things like that. A hunting dog that is no longer capable of hunting is useless as far as people are concerned. As far as the way I see about
it's not quite true. With beagles, people can take in beagles when they've retired. Indeed,
there is a wealth of pretty horrific evidence.
And the horses?
Yeah.
The horses go on. Most of the horses get put out to pasture when they're old.
Well, yeah, I know, and that does happen. But look, don't forget, you talk about animal welfare. I mean, this week the Labour government has actually talked about banning pig farrow-cates and about caged chickens. I think these are actually quite sensible things to do. Surely, the way we treat animals...
we used to lead the EU on that,
John,
and the
way
EU
we treat
is
animals
way behind us, and we should ban their imports.
No, look,
for this kind
it says a lot about us and our relationship with nature, our relationship as human beings with other human beings, if we treat the weakest and the most fragile and the most frail of animals so badly and so cruelly.
Well, foxes aren't the weakest and most frail of animals. They're vicious killers.
We don't... Well, and they wouldn't be in this country if it wasn't for fox hunts.
Well, then you'd be complaining that they've gone extinct.
So we're not disagreeing about having higher animal welfare standards. I'm very proud that our country does have higher standards than the EU. I think the worry is that we import a lot of food from the EU which doesn't meet our higher standards, and I think that's something that they ought to get more concerned about.
And are you just slightly changing about this lack of scrutiny, that Labour's cutting down the lobby so it can't be quizzed by the press? So when it does these sorts of things, fewer opportunities to find out why.
Jacob, in this day and age, nobody can really keep anything hidden under a stone. Look, the idea, the lobby used to meet 8 times a week. It now meets once a day. And I think don't forget, the Prime Minister's official spokesman comes along and actually,
No, it still meets. It still meets twice a day. It just no longer meets in the House of Commons. It always does it in Downing Street.
Well,
and that's being reduced to 5 times a week.
It's quite often met outside the gallery. It's quite often met in Downing Street. But
and they're going to switch to press conferences where they can organise who asks the question, whereas the lobby is much more informal.
Well, if they switch them to Scunthorpe, I get worried. But as far as I'm...
But they're trying to stop difficult questions.
That's right.
But you can't stop it. It's like putting your finger in the dike.
Well, you and I know that, but this government doesn't seem to have worked that out. And what they'll discover is it's even worse for them if they don't allow regular exchanges.
Right.
don't do us any good. People will make up things or get even worse quotes from
If there's a
people who don't like
vacuum
them.
of information, then that vacuum will be filled with...
Yes, well, we agree about
GB
that.
News will fill it with accuracy and truth in a moment.
This idea that migration causes, huge risks for the country can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of ethnic minority UK citizens very, very difficult.
The new spokesman for the Blob has told us to stop expressing concerns over immigration, with crimes against British citizens by asylum seekers supposedly becoming an increasingly common occurrence. Does the real risk come from the Blob's hatred of free speech, making people afraid to discuss the issue?
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It appears seem to need more time to do that.
They definitely do. I mean, I think this country is becoming so ageist, it's not true. We're all being taxed, and when you think of the years and years we've all paid taxes, and, now they're having another go at us. They're taxing our pensions and everything that we might have saved for that rainy day. Certainly, when crossing a road, it is, if you are, I've got a bad knee, you've got a bad knee over there. We have problems. You have a few problems, Eamon.
About everything.
Yeah, but when you get across the road, you're frightened. I'm frightened of falling, because I think that's one of the major things of old people. They're terrified. I've had two friends in the last fortnight fall very badly and they're in hospital. And then you suddenly get this beep, 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 beep on a crossing, and you panic a bit, and the cars are coming, and bicycles are suddenly there. It's all...
Are people generally not very patient then? Because if there's an old lady or an old man crossing the road in front of me, I'd always stop.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if you're in a wheelchair, they probably run you over more. I mean, it's a terrible situation.
I mean, it's not so much pedestrian crossings, right? It's the ones where it's lights. When Christopher quite right says about the beep 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 is so you have, and suddenly it says 10 seconds, 9 seconds.
The countdown's stressful.
Yeah,
and can imagine it would be stressful
it
for
is
elderly
trying to yes. I have to trying to drag my leg across the road.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. I'm still Jacob Rees-Mogg, and we were discussing the war on the countryside, and we've had a tractor load of male mogs come in. Mary says, Labour is targeting farmers, and it's attacking everyone and anyone who is vaguely middle class. The elderly have paid into the system all their lives are also targets. Labour is completely out of step with the wishes of the people. And Keith says, such a good point. Why is the government wasting time destroying a traditional field sport, targeting farmers once again, prevent the accidental death of a few foxes? Countless foxes are killed by road vehicles. Should we ban all non-essential road vehicles? Exactly the point. And Trevor says, there are two categories of people. Those that think it is all right to cause suffering to animals during some sporting activities, and those who don't. This has nothing to do with whether someone lives in the countryside or not. I've never voted Labour, but congratulate them on the new animal welfare legislation they say they will introduce. Thank you for the mail, Moggs. The new head of Britain's equalities watchdog has given her first intervention on behalf of the blob, warning the public not to address concerns over migration, saying that describing immigration as a risk demonises migrants.
I think it's really important that we have honesty in the way that we talk about human rights, and that we also have a recognition that the demonisation of migrants, the creating this idea that migration causes, huge risks for the country, can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of ethnic minority UK citizens very, very difficult.
As taxpayer costs exceed £5 billion a year and public concerns reaches a decennial high, it is the case that crimes against British citizens by asylum seekers become commonplace. So the greater risk of mass migration is not talking about it and allowing it to fester, which is basically what we did after the Rivers of Blood speech. Well, my panel is still with me, John Redwood and Stephen Pound. John, this concerns me because actually, for decades after the Rivers of Blood speech, people would not talk about migration, and the British public got more and more concerned about it, and the politicians, the elite, kept quiet. This seems to me an attempt to reinforce that or reimpose that.
Well, you need moderate language, and that was the problem with that speech. And I think it was also muddling up two separate worries people have about immigration. There's the minority groups and people who come in who are criminals or are about to become criminals, who are a threat, and you can't deny that. And then there's a very large number of people coming in who are going to be law-abiding, but they are going to drive wages down, or they're going to put a lot of strain on our social services and on our housing situation, which people resent. And so you've got to have honest conversations about both those issues without becoming immoderate in your language.
And it's perfectly reasonable to have as a starting point the idea that people who come into the country illegally are more likely to commit crimes because they've been willing to commit crimes to come here.
Committee want to come here, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Stephen, what really interests me is this is such a different tone, but coming to the same point as Shabana Mahmood. So she said it was very important to control immigration and possibly change the application of human rights law because she worried that uncontrolled immigration had an effect on the existing ethnic minority population. Now, this lady is saying talking about it has that effect. I'm very much with Shabana Mahmood rather with the new head of the Equalities Commission.
I appreciate it's a season of goodwill to all people, but would you allow me to agree with you on this particular one? But look, the problem is I think things are changing. Do you remember when that chap drove into the crowd at Liverpool when they got the cup? And within 5 minutes, his ethnicity and his origin was actually broadcast. I think that's one of the things coming. But the other thing, if you wanted to actually create the ideal circumstance for the worst sort of rapes and abuses, what you do is you take a huge number of single men, give them nothing to do, put them in a hotel for 18 months, give them nothing to spend their time doing, and that is almost guaranteed. That's a pressure cooker. And, of course, that's what they're committing, these foul crimes, which is all the more reason we need to actually process immigration applications as quickly as possible. And if they're entitled to come here and pay tax, so be it. If they're not, out they go. At the present time, there is an issue where, and I think where I do agree with what's been said, is that a lot of the people in my part of the world, which is very, very multicultural, they are horrified and disgusted because they feel it reflects on them. It's not right. It's not good enough. And so I think what she says is a little bit risible, but let's not deny that there's a real problem there.
But a lot of people would agree with you that we need to process quickly and then we need to send away those that are illegal migrants. But that is the problem. The last government had a way of doing that. Courts blocked it, and then they went to the election before proof of concept. But you need something like that to send them to. This government came in and scrapped that. How is it going to remove people which it says are not legally entitled to be here?
Well,
Nobody believes they're going to.
British judges imposing British law can actually solve this problem. When Germany, at the moment, they actually deport people to Afghanistan. Well, one of my arguments has always been you cannot deport every illegal because you cannot send, say, people to Iran or Afghanistan. People are doing it now. I think the whole of Europe
but when is
at a
this
tipping
government
point.
going to do that? I don't believe it will.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, there's more people are being sent back across the Channel now than at any time in history. And don't forget, we've still got the 4.2 billion who came over under Boris Johnson to deal with. It's the backlog, John. That's the real problem there. We've simply got to address...
The real problem is those who are found to be illegal trying to get entry into this country are not sent anywhere because this government doesn't have anywhere to send them and doesn't have the will to do it.
Well, I would have agreed with you a while ago, but all the evidence now is that there are ways of doing it. Look what they're doing in Denmark. Look what Mette Frederiksen is doing in Denmark.
But we're not doing it.
Yeah. No, we are doing it, but not nearly enough.
The people being sent back agree to go. They're not people
That's
that
not the
are
case.
made to go.
That's not the case with the in and out thing, which everybody laughed at. In fact, the more people went back to France under the old one in, one out than ever went to Rwanda. So I think we are doing something about it. But the key thing,
that's
Jake...
a very low bar.
I agree. But do you curse the darkness or light a candle? We started... But listen, where I think it's really important...
I also think we are allowed to discuss the cultural effects of mass migration. I don't want to demonise other cultures, but I think we should be entitled to say that we believe our culture is a good one and we want people to come here to adopt it. We want them to speak English and we want them to understand how England works. It's not to say they should all become Christians, but that we should be entitled to say that Christianity is a very good form of... Well, it's the truth. Let's not beat about the bush. And to encourage people to understand Christianity.
Indeed, but I mean, the whole basis of our legal system is the Judeo-Christian model, and you know, this is what we are. But don't forget, we are actually a nation of immigrants ourselves. I mean, Saxons, by definition, come from Saxony. So I think people do come into this country.
But you know
the difference now, Jacob, the difference now is the number, the volume and the concentration.
OK, so let's finish this off by asking, do you think this new lady has made any contribution to the debate by saying this, or it's just sort of...
Well, I think she's annoyed a lot of people and reminded us what is wrong with this government. It is too craven when it comes to so-called international law and isn't listening to the wishes of the British people and doesn't have the practical solutions because there are still too many in total. And there are some dangerous people coming in that people are naturally most alarmed about.
That's bound to be the case. You know, if you've got that vast number of people, even if it's not 0.1% are wrong, and there's still too many.
Still too many. Well, thank you very much to my distinguished panel. In a moment, the Jeffrey Epstein scandal revelations continue to escalate, with countless public figures being linked to the notorious sex offender. But why was this egregious elite culture able to flourish? Has the moral degradation of society since the 1960s led to such reprehensible behaviours?
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, and welcome to your winter sun forecast from the Met Office. If you're looking to head towards the Mediterranean for the Christmas period, it is going to be quite unsettled in quite a few locations. The best of the sunshine probably across the Canary Islands, but for Spain, it is going to be cloudy with some outbreaks of rain. And for Western Italy, we will have some thundery showers, and that band of showers will continually push its way towards Greece as you head through the week. And it will be quite chilly in a few spots, but for Tenerife, we are looking at highs of around the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Although it is turning much drier during the next few days, it's not necessarily turning sunnier. We do have extensive cloud, low cloud at that, giving widespread hill fog in places overnight. Low pressure remains to the southwest. That's going to continue to bring some showery rain towards southwestern parts of the UK, even Wales from time to time overnight and into the start of Tuesday. And we also have some outbreaks of showery rain in the north of Scotland. But away from these areas, mostly it's dry. However, with a lot of low cloud around and that cloud sitting on hills, there'll be some patchy drizzle. It will be frost-free, temperatures of 6 to 8 Celsius first thing. So gloomy starts to Tuesday, especially for central and eastern parts of Scotland, with outbreaks of light rain here and there, particularly over the hills. Showery rain for the north and northwest of Scotland as well, but some brightness for the parts of western Scotland, particularly the southwest. Cumbria, West Wales doing well for some glimmers of sunshine first thing. The southwest of England still seeing some showers. Mostly these are light outbreaks of rain and they're going to fade away by the time we get to the afternoon. So many places will be dry but cloudy, and that widespread cloud sheet continuing throughout much of Tuesday.
It's going to make it feel cold, and the easterly wind, once it sets in, will make it feel cold. Feels like temperatures more like 2 or 3 Celsius in the east and southeast of England. Northern Scotland sees some outbreaks of rain later on, and they tend to drift into central areas by Christmas Eve before fizzling away. But you'll notice Christmas Eve, a bit less cloud around. Not entirely cloud-free, but certainly a brighter day as expected. And likewise, on to Christmas Day. Brighter skies, still some patchy cloud around, dry for most, even if it will be windy.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubrey, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Jeffrey Epstein scandal is back in the spotlight as recent court filings and newly released documents expose the protection enjoyed by the notorious paedophile and his powerful network. But beyond the politicians, billionaires and celebrities, it must be asked, how did such an exploitative elite culture thrive? And has the erosion of morality, including the proliferation of violent pornography since the 1960s, helped create the environment for abuse and corruption on such a huge scale? Well, I'm joined now by the former Anglican Bishop, Gavin Ashenden. Gavin, thank you very much for joining me. It does seem to me that this is part of a moral void, that the behaviour one reads about is so appalling, but it's a situation that's affected the whole of the Western world since the 1960s, with morality just going out of the window.
I think we find ourselves in a crisis that goes back to the First World War and certainly the Second World War, when morals were experienced as some kind of restraint. There was a hope that after the Second World War we could build a better life and a better place for ourselves. And it was mainly conceived in terms of indulgence, doing what we wanted. And I think that's one of the reasons why Christian morality was found to be unacceptable, because it was too restraining. But what it did was not just to restrain our appetites as individuals, but it restrained the powerful from abusing those who had no power. And this is a scandal that's, although it's presented in terms of sexual exploitation, which it was, it's also a scandal that is about the exploitation of the powerful, not being accountable, and perhaps even being subject to blackmail from behind the scenes. So at a number of levels, it's deeply troubling, and mainly because there is no accountability.
And there's no sense of shame about it either, is there? If you look at the pictures, there's no indication that they would rather not be photographed, that they're embarrassed about it, they have any concept that they might be doing anything wrong, or that others around them may be doing something wrong.
I was brought up with I think it was Jack Profumo as being the scandal of the time when I was young. And my father was at pains to point out both what he'd done, but also that he tried very hard to rehabilitate himself. He spent the rest of his life outside public office, simply doing everything from cleaning public conveniences to working at charities for the dispossessed. There was a great sense that he had to rehabilitate himself morally. He owed something to the rest of us because of the scandal. I think that sense of, well, again, we're back to accountability. Shame and rehabilitation's gone completely. And so actually, in a way, we're much more cruel today. Once you're cancelled forever. There's no forgiveness. We ought to be able to, what I'd like to see is people understanding the richness and the depth of Christian morality, where, first of all, the restraint is there, the accountability is there, but the possibility of redemption also should be there.
The possibility of confession and penance. But yes. This seems to seep through to the rest of society. So we see the pictures of the rich and powerful, and we read about the abuse of girls. But we also read about pornography becoming an absolutely pernicious part of society for young men who begin to think that that is a normal way of life, say it's not just the rich and powerful who are being led astray by this.
Well, we have no boundaries and no agreed morality. Part of the problem is that we're desperately hypocritical. At one level, we resent any kind of restraint, people being told they shouldn't do things. We think this is an infringement upon people's existential freedom. But at the other level, if you get caught or you do the wrong kind of thing, and what's really dangerous now is it's extended into thought crime, then if you say something that suggests you have bad thoughts, you can be excommunicated from society forever and find no way back at all. Well, that's a crazy and anarchic way of doing morals. We deserve and we need something better. And in terms of at least the different systems available, what we've got is worst, I think, and the Christian one is probably best. It would be one of the things I try and do, and as the Christian church does, is to say, look, you've lost your bearings. And the situation you've ended up with is far more oppressive than anything that went before. However, it's presented in puritanical terms. You're being misinformed. You need something better than this.
All right, well, we've got a new Archbishop of Westminster and a new Archbishop of Canterbury. What do you think either of them can do to reassert morality and to encourage some sense of shame and feeling that living up to the Ten Commandments is a good idea?
Well, they need to be very clear what language they're speaking. If they get tempted to speak the language of political correctness and to engage in the whole recalibration of social justice, then they'll fail their people completely, because their role is the rebuilding of character, the salvation of souls, the rebuilding of character, helping people make this very difficult moral journey. Christian history and literature is full of tales of that, from the Pilgrim's Progress to Dante. And the whole point of these extraordinary pieces of literature is to help the rest of us negotiate our journey from a place we don't want to be to somewhere we're being called to get to, ultimately heaven. But it's the job of both the Archbishop of Canterbury and of the Cardinal Archbishop of Westminster to give us some sense of moral guidance, to give us both the capacity to aim and better, to think more clearly, but also to be forgiven and to be rehabilitated when, as we all do, we inevitably fail.
Well, thank you very much for joining me this evening, and indeed for having me on your Catholic Herald podcast recently, which was a great pleasure. In a moment, yet more signs of Britain in decline. Christmas is being tainted by the shoplifting epidemic. Figures show more than 800 incidents go unsolved every day. Meanwhile, a museum in Brighton, it would be Brighton, has promised to decolonise Santa Claus, saying he's too white and too male. His peace and goodwill to all men now dead in the water.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock only on GBNews, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Yet more signs of Britain in decline have been left under the tree for us this Christmas. It's beginning to look a lot like shoplifting, with more than 800 thefts going unsolved every day. Retail workers are worried for their safety during the busiest time of the year. Meanwhile, in Brighton, and it would have to be Brighton, a taxpayer, of course, you fund it, museum has decided Santa Claus is coming to town, but only after being decolonised, accused of being too white, too male and too judgmental. So, with Law and Order defunct and Father Christmas under attack from the woke mob, is peace and goodwill to all men now dead in the water? Well, my panel's still here. Stephen, would you feel more liberated if it were Mother Christmas and it was not a white man, it was perhaps somebody from China?
Jacob, we're at an utterly magical time of year, and I think we should glory in the fact, and that Santa Claus, Father Christmas, is the epitome of what is good. It's about giving things to people. He's a beacon of goodness and decency and kindness and honesty. As far as I'm concerned, leave him alone. He does an enormous amount for us. And the idea that you're going to say, how does he identify? I'm sorry. Grow up. It's just ludicrous. Let's just sit back and glory in the fact that this incredible Christmas season is here. Let's just glory in that. Let's not try to attack something that's wonderful. There's not much that's brilliant in the world today. Santa Claus is.
So, John, am I the sucker here? Because I've fallen for this Brighton survey that's purely been done to get news reporting, and here I am falling for their trick and giving them publicity, which is all they want, surely.
Well, that may be right, although I don't think you'd normally fall for people's tricks. I dare say there is something to debate. But I think for those of us men, we value having a role model in Santa Claus of a grandfather or father figure that we can all look up to, who is magical and wonderful. And our children, understandably,
and he appears. He appears in.
He's not kids.
He's not exclusively Anglo-Saxon. He's not exclusively European. No. His magic extends across the whole world. You find cultures that don't speak our language, they still revere this figure, this kindly figure, who at this time of year actually brings that generosity of spirit. And can't we just have more than that instead of arguing about angels dancing on the head of a pin and what he identifies as? I'm sorry.
Be good, be rewarded. It's a lovely message.
Sometimes I weep for Brighton. I'm sorry.
But that's the other part of their message, isn't it? Yeah. That it's too determinative because it tells children to be good. But as
what's
parents,
wrong with saying
you want your children to be good.
I don't want my children to be bad.
Are you on the naughty list?
Yes, and it's not that terrifying.
But it's also about forgiveness, because if the child's been a little naughty, then
they still get presents, don't they? Yes, I think Stephen's got it absolutely right. It's a magical time. And I like the point about the role model, that we all want to be towards our children, that friendly figure that is generous rather than the mean-spirited one.
And I leave the mince pie and the carrot on the mantelpiece at Christmas, although sometimes I have to say I'm tempted by the small sherry. But I imagine that Father Christmas...
you can't go stealing Father Christmas's sherry.
No,
that would be really mean.
John, I can resist temptation.
Well, that brings us neatly on shoplifting, because...
How can you compare me drinking Santa's sherry with a shoplifter?
No, you haven't been to the shop to get free sherry.
I don't understand why we don't have routine policing anymore, because shoplifting is not that difficult to stop.
No, I think it's one of those things where if the authorities and the government got behind a campaign to stop it, a lot could be achieved, but I don't think it's taken nearly seriously enough. By the authorities.
Well, here's a strange thing. Round my way, they've got a very, very good system, which is actually being attacked by some people. They actually photograph a shoplifter, and they've got a little closed circuit, WhatsApp group. Yeah. And they copy this from a number of places in Lincolnshire and places in Norfolk. And so they've got a prolific... Because a lot of these people are prolific shoplifters. And you can say they've got to fuel their drug habits, whatever. A lot of them aren't. It's just a business to them. Come in, loot the place, go down the pub and flog it cheap. So what they do now is they've got this little WhatsApp group. Now, that works, except in one area. Round my way, again, we have a lot of Turkish barbers. We have a lot of nail parlours, tattoo parlours and nail parlours who don't participate in it. Well, that's their problem. By and large, you don't tend to go in and loot nail varnish. However, if you've got,
we don't.
Well, but OK, your private life's your own business, Jacob. But I mean,
I hope you loot nothing.
But it's for me the real killer is the corner shop. I mean, one of the things that saved our high streets has been, and a lot of them are Tamil or Pakistani or Indian, and when you have somebody come in, brazenly just come and sweeps the booze off. This is why with my cigarettes nowadays, and thank God I don't. You got metal screens everywhere. And the other day I went into an off licence in West London. You had to. This was in the daytime to buy anything. I was buying milk and bread through a little hatch. A little perspex hatch, when you go and visit people in prison. And that's terrifying. But I think, A, we need more visible policing. B, we need to actually have retribution. I'm not talking about village stocks, but I think we bang them up as quickly as possible. But C, let's work with the traders to stop it happening. Prevention's always better than cure.
Well, I think in the large stores where they have security personnel who can afford that, they've got to have sufficient power to be able to stop it. Unless it's
and most of them are quite terrified, actually,
of
that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem.
And obviously, if they're armed, that'd be a different matter. But also in close contacts with the police, so the police could come and help.
Arm the security guard at the co-op.
But it is also a high cost for all of us because prices go up to pay for it.
Yeah.
But you'll be really relieved to know, dear viewers, that a Brighton and Hove Museum spokesman has said...
Spokesperson, surely.
No spokesman. We don't believe in spokespeople at GBNews. As museum educators, our role is not to tell people what is right or wrong, but help audiences look at history and culture from more than one point of view and to create opportunities for discussion and debate. The piece about Father Christmas was intended to prompt reflection rather than prescribe how anyone should celebrate Christmas. It looks at how familiar stories are shaped, whose perspectives they centre, and how they might be explored when we include viewpoints beyond the white Western perspective. Oh, my goodness, how...
Does that mean run your country down, do you
Isn't
think?
that what we call a reverse ferret? I think they're rowing back from that.
I wish they had any idea what they meant. Anyway, moving on to a rather sad subject, because today mourners, friends and family gathered to remember the late Peter Whittle, who died on the 27th of November after suffering from cancer. Peter was a key part of the movement for freedom, to preserve Britain's heritage and to strive for a better future for its people. He loved his country fiercely, unlike Brighton Museum, in its history, its music, its art and its traditions, and he inspired that in everyone around him. After a colourful career in politics as the deputy leader of UKIP and a member of the London Assembly, as a thorn in the side of Sadiq Khan, he saw the importance of culture long before others did, founding and growing the New Culture Forum into the movement it is today. He was adored for his humour, loyalty, kindness and strength, drawing people together, forging a family from colleagues and friends, and inspiring a new generation to love Britain. He will be remembered by all who knew him, with a glass of white wine in one hand and a cigarette in the other, leaving behind countless people transformed by his character and inspired to shape the nation's future for the better. As we prepare to celebrate the incarnation, he looks forward to the second coming. Requiem aeternam Dei Domine, lux perpetua lucede, requiescat in pacem. Amen. Anyway, that's all from me. Up next, Patrick. Patrick, what have you got on your programme this evening?
OK, yes, well, Jacob, I've got a great show lined up for you. So, it looks as though Labour does not want you to worry about immigration. Don't point out any of the negatives when it comes to immigration. That's the message today. Well, guess what I'm going to be doing at 10 p.m. I'm also going to be asking about whether or not we should be force-feeding, if that's even possible, some of these hunger strikers that are there at the moment? How do we feel about all those people that are on hunger strike at the moment in support of Palestine action? What should we be doing about that? There is a risk, of course, they become martyrs for their cause. I'm also going to be talking about this ban on trail hunting. People like to talk about a slippery slope, don't they? First there was the fox hunting ban, now there's this ban on trail hunting. What is the next step? Do you just basically have to keep your dog on a lead in the countryside at all times, or not even have a dog at all? So I've got all of that coming your way, and much, much more, as well as Labour wanting to cancel the general election, apparently. Surely not.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Although it is turning much drier during the next few days, it's not necessarily turning sunnier. We do have extensive cloud, low cloud at that, giving widespread hill fog in places overnight. Low pressure remains to the southwest. That's going to continue to bring some showery rain towards southwestern parts of the UK, even Wales from time to time overnight and into the start of Tuesday. And we also have some outbreaks of showery rain in the north of Scotland. But away from these areas, mostly it's dry. However, with a lot of low cloud around and that cloud sitting on hills, there'll be some patchy drizzle. It will be frost-free, temperatures of 6 to 8 Celsius first thing. So a gloomy start to Tuesday, especially for central and eastern parts of Scotland, with outbreaks of light rain here and there, particularly over the hills. Showery rain for the north and northwest of Scotland as well, but some brightness for the parts of western Scotland, particularly the southwest. Cumbria, West Wales doing well for some glimmers of sunshine first thing. The southwest of England still seeing some showers. Mostly these are light outbreaks of rain, and they're going to fade away by the time we get to the afternoon. So many places will be dry but cloudy, and that widespread cloud sheet continuing throughout much of Tuesday. It's going to make it feel cold, and the easterly wind, once it sets in, will make it feel cold. Feels like temperatures more like 2 or 3 Celsius in the east and southeast of England. Northern Scotland sees some outbreaks of rain later on, and they tend to drift into central areas by Christmas Eve before fizzling away. But you'll notice Christmas Eve, a bit less cloud around. Not entirely cloud-free, but certainly a brighter day as expected. And likewise, on to Christmas Day. Brighter skies, still some patchy cloud around, but dry for most, even if it will be windy.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. And we've come to the fabulously festive Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. £85,000 of tax-free cash really could be yours.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jubrey, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless, and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real.